It's time for Screen Junkies Movie Fights.
It's Movie Fights Live! What's going on, everybody? We are back. We are live. Oh, my goodness. Good to be here. And I got to shout out my hooligans. Hoot hoot. Owl Nation. Let's meet our combatants. We got a good one planned today. First off, this man loves him some Star Wars, and you can hear him talk about it on the Force Center through Collider. And I just learned, I'm pretty excited about this actually, because Game of Thrones is coming back for its last season.
Oh, yeah.
You, sir, are going to be talking about it with a pillar of Owl Nation, Mr. Lon Harris, on the upcoming podcast, Casterly Talk.
That's right. We're going to dive in like a bunch of sweaty nerds, people like Andres Cabrera, Michelle Boyd, Rachel Cushing. We're going to have a lot of people come in and breaking it down. You know how we like to break things down, Hal?
Oh, like breaking down the wall that keeps back those wildlings and White Walkers.
Good reference to Pete's Dragon.
Yes. Very, very nice, and I love the pun Casterly Talk. This next gentleman, you know him from Honest Trailers, SJ News, and I just have to commend him because Joe Starr, this isn't the first time that he is stepping up. We had someone drop out, and I've lost track of how many times you step in and you bring it, and I salute you.
I made a promise at somebody's grave that whenever someone was struck down by the flu, feel better soon, Julia Prescott, I would step in and argue whatever nonsense they wanted to argue.
And I appreciate, and you do have some nonsense to argue today.
Honestly, these would have been my picks. So there's no handicap this time. This is what I would have gone with. She's my sister. We're linked in.
Yeah, Julia's amazing. We miss her. We hope she gets well soon. But Joe, you are a beast and a gentleman, and I appreciate you stepping up, brother. And this man needs no introduction, but I'll give him a short one. He is the reigning Movie Fights champion, and you know him from Honest Trailers and SJ News and all over the place, Mr. Dan Murrell.
Happy to be here, Hal. I got a title fight coming up in a couple weeks. Billy Business emailed me and said, "You wanna keep the rust off?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?"
You need a scrimmage.
This is gonna be a silly one though, which
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah.
Because I like getting silly sometimes. And I also just figured out a great new strategy, which is the next time when I'm not playing for a title, I'm on the show, I'm going to answer the dumbest, most ridiculous things imaginable, and then I'm calling in sick the day of the fight. Because I want to see Joe fight.
Joe versus Greg Alba on behalf of Dan is going to be a barn burner.
No pressure. All Jaws answers.
That's good times.
All Quint deep dives.
Yep.
Dan, good to see you across the table from me, sir, in your favorite chair. And deciding all of the questions and each round is myself and Lon Dan Calling, Lon Harris, and Danielle Radford.
Hey, how's it going?
So, Lon, you're going to be doing a little judging and a little factuality checking, correct?
Yep, I got my computer right here. One fact I want to know, why would somebody's dying wish have been for Joe to fill in for sick contestants? Whose grave was this?
You know, he didn't...
Don't speak ill of the dead, Lon.
Yeah, come on, man.
Sorry.
A man's last wish is a man's last wish.
Listen, that's
I
somebody's
can't
dying
question
wish.
it.
It was Stan Lee, Lon.
He said...
Now how do you feel?
You guys didn't know he was a regular movie fight viewer.
Yeah, why did Brewster make the guy spend all the money in order to get all the millions? I mean, people are weird. That's it.
You got me in a classic Brewster's razor.
A classic Richard Pryor.
I can't respond to that.
Yes, Brewster's razor. That's great. Daniel Radford, it is always so great to see you over there, and you are the voice of the people. Do you want to tell us how that works?
Oh, hello. Yes, so I am the voice of the people. The way this works is for the first round, or for the first initial 3 rounds, we're going to have a poll that goes up on the YouTube. There will be fun polls and stuff on Twitter, but the one that counts is the one on YouTube. If you're not sure how to access that, we have a description down in the description box below, or you can ask one of us in the chat. I'm sure someone has a copy-pasted template all ready to go. And so that's how that'll work. And then I start being my own human come the speed rounds. Also, I will be going through and checking the Movie Fights Live hashtags. Oftentimes people throw in there lots of really fun memes, really, really good alternate answers, people explaining why they did or did not like a certain answer, and they're great. So go in there, and I might wind up picking your comment.
Yeah, make some dank memes. Like if you wanted to put my head on an owl's body, I wouldn't mind it.
I'd do it in life.
And once again, how it works, the first player to get 4 points will walk out of here the winner. We have 3 regular rounds, and then the top 2 players after those regular rounds will move on to the speed round. And so we'll be down 3-0 and make a furious comeback in the speed round and take the day. So anything can happen on movie fights. Fellas, are you ready for Billy Biz to drop that package?
Yeah.
Billy, drop the package.
Prepare to die. Ladies and gentlemen. No. It's main event time. Finish him!
Right, so, gentlemen, here is our first question of the day. Sony, they confirmed that they will move forward with Venom 2, but Ruben Fleischer is not returning to direct. So we ask you, who should take the reins? Who should take control of the Venom franchise? And Ken Napzok, we're going to start with you.
We're calling it a franchise? We're calling it a franchise already?
I mean, a second one, does that constitute?
All right.
I mean, maybe that's a question for a future movie.
All right,
fight.
absolutely. All right. I'll confess something there. I didn't see the movie. I had better things to do, like not doing a keto diet and all those kind of things. But here we
You
go.
look great.
Thank you. Here's the answer. It's Guillermo del Toro, as our good friend JT once called him, Willie the Bull. This guy knows how to bring in visuals that are outside of this world, but it feels lived in. And from what I saw of Venom, and I'm sure Dan will correct me, this was a dark and gritty take, but also wanted to be funny. You can't really be both unless you have a visionary like Guillermo del Toro at the helm. I still wish I could have seen what he would have done with The Hobbit after 2 years of working on it, and I think this would be a chance to do that same kind of magic.
All right, Guillermo del Toro. Joe, who you got?
I am traveling to South Korea to find a director for Venom. I'm going with Bong Joon-ho, who directed The Host, which was a horror monster comedy in 2006 that nailed the balance of horror and comedy super well. And then he did a movie called Mother, which was like a dark and gritty thriller that gets your dark and gritty into your horror comedy. He did Snowpiercer, and if you don't like the movie Snowpiercer, the internet thinks you're an idiot. And and he did Okja, which was my favorite movie of 2017. I think it blended action and the CGI character and really played up this girl's relationship with this weird thing that didn't quite have any like actual lines, but they still had this really wonderful relationship that you believed in. And I think that's something also that Eddie and that pile of goop need to be believable on screen. I think he'd pull off a really cool Venom movie.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Dan Murrell.
I went with a director whose last film was actually very, very much similar in tone and in some would say content to Venom. I went with Leigh Whannell. Leigh Whannell, you probably know him as an actor and writer on the Saw series. He wrote the Insidious films. He also wrote and directed a movie that came out in 2018 called Upgrade, which, if you haven't seen it, is a really fun movie, a really cool movie, and strikingly similar to Venom. It's about a guy who has an AI in his head that talks to him and basically can take over his body and make him do things that he can't control. I loved Upgrade. I think it was a really fun little sleeper sci-fi movie that I really enjoyed. It's got elements of body horror to it. I think that Leigh Whannell can take the lessons he learned making that film and take those to a bigger film, but I think he can also bring a lot of the skills he's learned working on a smaller scale to the next Venom film, because the one thing I don't want this movie to do is spin out of control like so many sequels can. And if you get a guy like Leigh Whannell who knows how to work on a budget, who's done similar stuff in the past, I think he could have a great sequel.
All right, 3 great answers. Fight it out, you guys.
Something I really like about old BJH is his ability to control that chaos. He's an amazing composer with in terms of like bringing together all sorts of nutty elements that really shouldn't fit together, but does so really well. I think Del Toro's an amazing director, but so often with Del Toro, I feel like I'm watching a very beautiful painting that I'm not really supposed to engage with necessarily. I'm just supposed to appreciate its beauty and go, this was very, very well crafted, but I don't necessarily like connect to it in major ways. And I think with a Venom movie, you need everybody in the theater like screaming and go, I can't believe I just saw the thing, and cheering and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think Del Toro really delivers that as much anymore, or at least doesn't seem interested in that. He's sort of into creating his art, and there's a place for that. It's not a knock against Del Toro. But he seems interested in creating sort of his art for art's sake and not sort of the spectacle that a Venom movie would require.
You said BJH is how you're shortening your choice here?
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho, but that's fun. That's like a choice on Porn IQ, BJH. That's right, I made that kind of joke.
I just wanted to make the three-syllable name easier to say with 3 syllables.
Well, GDT, we got him here too, but I'll tell you what here. I understand what you're saying. I'm very respectful, but that is what I want for this. I want it to stand out for what came before. I think Venom it didn't pull a lot of people in. Box office number aside, it's something that went by you. It looked like everything else. I want in something that I want, and I want Doug Jones in a superhero movie. Like, dude, he's got like things on his hands that are eyes and something he can fight Venom, make up a new character. But I do want this to be a beautiful spectacle. Something different.
Well, here's what I think with both of you. You both pick great directors, but here's what I see the problem being for both of them is that they both have very strong style. They both have they put their personal stamp on their work, and I think what Venom had was the first movie was about it finding its voice. It struggled at times with being a comic book film. I think what it found by the end of it was that where the franchise's future should lie is with Tom Hardy and the relationship, him and the symbiote. That performance is what anchored the film. That relationship was what anchored the film. So it actually took, I think, Venom, the first full movie, an entire movie to find its voice. And I think if you bring in a filmmaker like Guillermo del Toro, like Bong Joon-ho, who bring in so much of their own style and so much of their own, particularly with Del Toro, so much of that expectation to it, that it becomes a Guillermo del Toro film or a Bong Joon-ho film first, and a Venom film second. I think it overwhelms the franchise, whereas Leigh Whannell is a guy who, he's been a journeyman. He's worked on so many different sides of the camera as an actor, as a producer, as a director. I think he can fit into the puzzle better, and he's going to go in there and make the best Venom film that he can, because that was the problem with The Hobbit. Ultimately, Guillermo del Toro didn't do The Hobbit because he was at odds, because there was the way that the studio wanted a Hobbit film to be made and the way that he wanted to do The Hobbit, and I don't want to see that happen again.
It also had to do with scheduling, Dan. I just read a very long book, so I have too much information about that. But here, Dan, you are the smartest movie fighter I know, but I have some bounce back questions. You've used some phrases of Leigh Whannell's other work, and I put next to his name just a lot of question marks, Hal, because I've never heard of the guy. But I've heard of Saw, Cut Off Legs. That's great. You said strikingly similar to this other movie. You said Barbed Wire he directed. What did
Upgrade.
Not Barbed Wire with Pam
Although the director of Barbed Wire would have killed this
It's
as
almost
well.
like an audition tape to direct a Venom film.
Fair enough. I'm not even really, but it's strikingly similar, and our directors would bring a strong stamp, so it seems like you want to just lather, rinse, and repeat Venom 2 with
No,
Venom
not
1.
at all, because you also have a collaborator in Tom Hardy who's going to bring a lot to the table, which is why I think if you bring Leigh Whannell in, who has shown that he has the visual style to tell the story in an engaging way, and I think he could bring a great new of his own to the table, but also allowing the collaboration with Tom Hardy. I just feel like when you have these really strongly stylistic filmmakers, Leigh Whannell has made different films, written different films that have different tones. I just worry that it's going to get overwhelmed and it's become a director's piece first, and that might not be the best thing for Venom right now.
One thing I love about Bong Joon-ho is, just the films that are rattled off, his most recent, could not be more night and day different than each other. And I think you want more of a director's personal stamp on one of these movies, because one of the things that hit Venom was you could tell when the studio began and the director stopped. Like, those. The train tracks would just completely derail when you could tell that the studio
It was made in a conference room
in.
at times, yeah.
And I think Bong Joon-ho is just this great Venn diagram of the things that you want from a Venom movie, because I do agree the next step is you just focus on the weird relationship between Eddie Brock and this symbiote, and you sort of humanize that along with some really weird action. And this is a guy who can really bring to life some amazing comic book characters. He hasn't done a comic book movie, but his characters feel like they're from a really great comic book at times. You know, one of the worst parts of Venom, I think we can all agree, even Ken who didn't see it, is all the boring bad guy science talk. Like those scenes were such snoozers.
And you know,
remember?
You know what would make that better? If you guaranteed someone like Richard Jenkins showing up, and that's what would happen with Guillermo del Toro.
Well, I was Jenkins' direction is great, but I'm just more remembering. You know what I do remember from Okja? In a system full of bad guys that you can barely ever remember was Jake Gyllenhaal's ridiculous, crazy, evil scientist that's just trying to kill this pig. That guarantees that you're not going to get just a bunch of just sort of immemorable villains that are just sort of there to recite science talk. You're going to get really interesting big characters to sort of rise up to this big weird alien
It's a
story.
good point, as long as Venom 2 isn't trying to teach me not to eat pork, because I'm not there yet in my life. But
Venom eats meat.
He absolutely does. But don't you want something outside of the box, just otherworldly? I make the jokes about Doug Jones, but give me some kind of weird, fantastic world that Eddie Brock can crawl into, not just bad superhero jokes or the weird CGI. It just didn't work. I want something that feels real and fantastic.
But they found that's what I mean, is that they found the uniqueness of this franchise. That's what they have found already.
Yeah.
They have found this relationship. The studio's already leaning into it. That's how they marketed the Blu-ray. So I'm saying that you found the voice of it. And I think particularly with Guillermo del Toro, to inject him into this, you now have the voice that this franchise has found, struggling with the voice that Guillermo del Toro is going to bring to a project like that. I want to see him be able to inject that style into something unfettered, to a project that he has developed, to a project that he has shepherded.
All right, let me put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Ken, go ahead and move to final thoughts.
These are three wonderful choices here. I believe that any one of them could make a good Venom 2 because, well, Ruben Fleischer, not his fault. I just don't think Venom connected, and they've got to kind of right the ship. And I want someone who's going to take it into a completely different, visionary direct. I want a stamp on it so that people have a reason to go back, not just Tom Hardy and one of his accents.
Thank you, sir. Joe.
You know, I think Del Toro has made his movie where someone has a weird romantic and sexualized relationship with a monster. And
it's the only hope I have.
And Murrell's done he's made his Venom movie. I think with both of those guys, you know, the problems you sort of run in with Del Toro, again, you have Del Toro promises you what he considers a horror movie, and you get Crimson Peak, which a beautiful looking movie, but did not deliver what audiences I think expected of it. He's great at subversion of genre and sort of zigging when you want him to zag, but I think for something like a Venom movie, when you promise a zag, you just want a zag. And World made a great Upgrade movie, or Venom movie with Upgrade. I agree with that. I just don't have any interest in watching them, do it again necessarily. Whereas with Bong Joon-ho, I think he's shown in his filmography such a diversity of voice and vision and tone and style that I think if you start to just sort of pick and choose, like if this guy's body of work was a grocery aisle and you just sort of pick and choose all these really great top shelf ingredients, I think you get like a really, really great Venom sequel.
Sounds like a nice grocery store.
Very tasty.
Thank you, Joe. Dan Murrell.
I mean, I spoke what I thought about Guillermo del Toro with Bong Joon-ho. Just to kind of capitalize on what Joe said, is like when you're picking these things off the aisle, maybe you'll get a great gourmet meal, but maybe those ingredients don't go together. Maybe those styles don't go together. And now maybe you've got a movie that just doesn't work. Sometimes that happens, whereas you get a guy like Leigh Whannell, you know that he can bring a style in specifically to this kind of story. I think that a movie, you got to bring everyone's talents to the table. And what Leigh Whannell brings to the table is a shorthand with this kind of material, not just with Upgrade, but with the kind of body horror. Venom is essentially a body horror kind of movie. That's how he made his bones, was doing Saw and that kind of body horror thing. I think these are two great directors. When you're talking about a sequel, for a franchise that just found its voice, I think you want to bring together what you already know that you want from the first film, and you want to bring in somebody who can execute that vision and bring a lot of other strengths to the table. I think Leigh Whannell has shown that he has those strengths in this kind of storytelling, and when you're doing a sequel, I think that's what you want. You can take the risk that maybe with these guys that you can pick the right ingredients, or I think you can bring in somebody that said, I like what he did with this and I want to bring these particular talents to this film.
Time. There you go. Wow. Good stuff. Some great arguments there. Lon, factually, where are we at?
Only real fact I've got, Barbed Wire was directed by David Hogan. He was a music video director.
That's my choice.
It's actually his lone feature. One of the music videos he directed, Gin Blossoms Found Out About You.
Oh, man.
Also a bunch of Dave Matthews
Is this a pre-tape?
videos.
Can we just redo the round? And
You know what, Lon, we could drive around this town and let the cops chase us
There you
around.
go. Very nice. That was all I had. That was all I had for facts.
fact check. That's hate jealousy.
Thanks, brother. Barbed
got it.
Wire, a classic starring Pamela Anderson. So, yeah, you guys, some really good arguments here. Ken, I'm going to talk about you first, so it means we're not going to get the point, but
Not shocked.
yeah, no, but like I really like the idea of creating something that's striking visually, like having this visionary director. But then when you started like bringing the whole cast of Shape of Water along for the ride, it got a little unwieldy for me. It really came down to Joe and Dan, and you guys were just like trading blows throughout. It was like we had like this is a steady hand who's done something like this before, and like I was really going along with Dan, but I feel like I got just a little bit more excited when Joe he listed the filmography. So this guy has chops, and then you had one line that really won it over for me when you said so many of his characters feel like comic book characters, and I'm thinking of Tilda Swinton's various performances in his film. So true. She feels like a comic villain, like she's like you enjoy watching her but you love to hate her. And his work with Chris Evans and Snowpiercer, and he just has the heroic comic thing, obviously. So yeah, that line really just sank it in for me. I'm going with Bong Joon-ho and Joe's answer. Lon, thoughts?
Yeah, I felt similar when they all first said their answers. I thought, wow, Guillermo del Toro was a great choice, but then yeah, I didn't really feel like we heard enough about why he specifically would be great. I also feel like practical effects in a Venom movie, this didn't get brought up during the round, kind of would look a little weird. To me, it also came down to Joe versus Dan, and I agreed. I think by the end, I felt Joe had made a really good case for why it would be both really interesting to see Bong Joon-ho give it a try, but also he could color within the lines and still make a recognizably Venom movie. So I went with Joe as well.
All right, Joe getting the point right there, and just by a hair. Dan had a really compelling argument. What does the internet have to say, Danielle?
All right now, with 44%,
Let me guess.
they were going with Dan. Joe got 34%, and then Ken at 20%.
It's the highest total I've got yet, Daniel.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
I thought they'd go all Guillermo, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I thought so too.
But some people were into it. Other suggestions, a lot of people caping hard for Kevin Smith. And then David Pockets 90 has a tweet thread extolling the virtues of Paul Verhoeven, and I am a Verhoeven, so go check that out. Also, we have Benji Bilderman and iGeekness with some amazing hows on owls. So,
Nice.
Very good. Very
Hoot
good.
hoot, Benji. All right, so Joe has moved into the lead, 1-0, going into question number 2. Dan the Man and Ken looking to get on the board. All right, here is question number 2. Margot Robbie has been confirmed to play Barbie in Mattel's upcoming feature adaptation. Will the Dreamhouse be included? So we ask, who should play Ken? Who should play Ken? And we'll start with player number 2 for question number 2. Joe?
I want to change my answer to Ken.
Yeah.
I've
think it'd be really good.
been asking who should play Ken my entire life. I haven't found the answer yet.
I'm going to give you a hug after this episode, I think. I'm going with Tim Meadows.
SNL's Tim Meadows.
Okay.
Because he's
Former
the
SNL star.
oh, Julia.
Because Julia picked him, and but the more I looked at it, the more I was like, I think she's right. I think Tim Meadows is like one of the funniest people on earth, and I think depending on what direction you go with a Barbie movie, he can sort of stick and move to be whatever you need him to be. If they're going to go with the direction that like Barbie is like a weird, dumb, like sort of Cher from Clueless level ditz, then he can be the like oh god, you crashed the Barbie Corvette again? You know, sort of like over it kind of Ken. Or if you go with the angle where Barbie is sort of tired of living in this Barbie world, I really like the idea of Tim Meadows playing a vapid, like just Californian version of Ken. He's not the buffest dude in the world, but I don't think it really matters. It's Tim Meadows.
All right.
Really
Tim Meadows for Ken, says Joe. Dan Murrell.
I read this question and there was one name that just flew into my head.
But I took it first.
And Joe took it. So my second, no. Sorry, Julia. No, it was not Tim Meadows. Chris Hemsworth.
Ooh.
Chris Hemsworth, number one, obviously he's got the look. That's an older picture, but all right.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Smoldering.
I know, right? Chris Hemsworth. But secondly, I think that, and this is the direction that I hope the movie goes in. Barbie is, I think, unfairly maligned as this, as you were saying, the one direction that can go is this. She's kind of this blonde, ditzy person, and when you look at Barbie over the years, like, she's done everything. She's been a doctor, she's been an astronaut, she's literally done every career in the world, and so nothing makes me laugh more than thinking of Margot Robbie as this sort of just like career woman Barbie who's just like capable of anything but gets unfairly written off as this ditzy blonde. And her dumbass husband Ken, who she's stuck with forever because they're Ken and Barbie. And the only person I can think of to play this, like, how funny would it be to see Chris Hemsworth as this just idiot who is in this, you know, this huge high-profile relationship with Barbie and gets all this credit for being, you know, oh, Ken, hello, honey. But Barbie's the one that's getting it done. What does Ken do? He's always like Vacation Ken or whatever. Barbie's the one out there earning a living. She's the one doing all the career stuff. And just, I could see it in my head, this Chris Hemsworth, Margot Robbie. By the way, two great actors that I would love to see play a couple together. I just think that's a really funny take on it, and I think Chris Hemsworth would be a great choice.
Thank you, Dan. Around the horn to Ken.
Look, first of all, I think I feel I need to defend Ken here because, you know, he's been in Barbie's corner for all this time, encouraged her to go out and chase different careers and chase her dreams, and he has been happy to have her in the spotlight. He's been behind her. What's all this hate on Ken? I just can't understand it, which is why my choice in a rematch 3 years in the making, but one that's sober, it's Hemsworth versus Pitt. That's right. Brad Pitt, who is currently 55 years old, I will add, is the choice because here's what I think they can do with this movie. I'll go into it how Margot Robbie is going to lead this movie that's going to change the way we look at typical iconic sex symbols, and Brad Pitt is a classic. We know what he's done, but now we're going to take it, we're going to peel back some layers and give generations going forward a new kind of sex symbol. It is not this blank slate, this unrealistic perfection. We're going to give a layer to it, and Brad Pitt as Ken is going to have to deal with the change in the tide.
Okie dokie, let's fight it out.
All right, Hemsworth, as we've really established, is just a gorgeous man that was taken straight off of my bedroom wall, that poster, and I can totally agree with it. And he's got the humor, he's got everything. But I want to go deeper. I think Margot Robbie is a very smart producer. She knows what she wants to do. She knows what she wants with her career, and I think this is gonna have an important message to it. And I think you could do that with an older, like a different version of a sex symbol. We're gonna change it. We're gonna tweak it in front of your eyes.
But we really want to go with the older man, younger woman dynamic again.
That's
like
gonna
Ken
be
is not
play.
like he's not like you know, record producer Ken. That's not his character. He's like, they're like partners. It's Barbie and Ken.
My favorite Ken had the blue.
Fact check: has he ever been a record producer?
I think he has. I like the 1984 Ken with the blue kind of like shiny jacket with the sleeves rolled up and the sockless shoes. But that actually, Dan, you're going right into what I'm saying. That will be part of the joke, part of the lesson. This old trope, this thing. We're gonna change it, and Ken is going to have to learn at the end of this. We're going to create something new. We're going to create a new man for Barbie. If you got a problem with Ken, guess what? It might even be a new woman for Barbie. We don't know, but that's the point of the movie I'm pitching here.
It sounds very fun. That sounds like a lot of fun in the Barbie. And this seems very heavy. It's like this is gonna be a very sobering analysis of the dynamics between Ken and Barbie.
Well, I think a comedy can have something to say.
They can have something to say, but I don't think I think it's a harder sell than the idea of sort of swapping the assumptions about both of these characters. And you bring in somebody like Hemsworth. I mean, they look like they should be shrink wrapped next to each other on a store aisle, Margot Robbie and Chris Hemsworth. And I think that it brings, first of all, it brings in it's a big name, and secondly, again, it's all about the dynamic between the two, and those two I think would have a great chemistry. Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, I don't see the kind of chemistry between the two of them that I could see from a Hemsworth. Robbie.
I don't necessarily think chemistry is an issue, because I think something else that this movie could look at is the forced chemistry between our expectations of a Ken and a Barbie. They can be a total odd couple, and society has just forced chemistry on them, which makes Tim Meadows sort of a funny choice for this. Brad Pitt played a great Ditz in Burn After Reading. Hemsworth played a great sort of Ken Ditz in the new Ghostbusters. I don't know how much range they can pull out of those characters, whereas I think Tim Meadows, no matter how stupid his characters get, can just pull empathy. Or not pull empathy, can just radiate empathy, and you just kind of want to go on a weird journey with them, whether he's like doing a census with Christopher Walken or whether he's the ladies' man. I think all of his dumb, weird characters have shown to have a lot of range in small amounts of time.
But he's the straight. I mean, the census taker thing. He's the straight man. Yeah. And he's great at being the straight man.
He's great.
And the ladies' man. I wouldn't say that's a dumb character. Like, he's still the guy with the punchlines in that one. He's certainly a quirky character, but I wouldn't say he's dumb. And that's the weird when I think about Tim Meadows, is that's what he is so good at. I mean, he is one of the best straight man comedians in Hollywood, but I think in order for him to play the straight man, again, you're casting Margot Robbie and Barbie as the sort of the Ditz, and I just don't.
Or maybe the couple is going on the journey together. I don't know.
Which is what. And look, and you talk about layers and nuance and everything. Brad Pitt made Tom Skerritt and fish sexy, and a river runs through it. Right? I mean, come on. Like, if he could pull that kind off, 7 years into bed, he's got that sizzle. But it's gonna be. You talk about journey. I'm sending these.
Those are
characters
all over 20 years ago, Ken. We're in the 90s at this point.
In 1993, the Jim Blossoms released New Miserable Experience, and that seems like yesterday to me.
Right around this town with the cops chasing us around.
So, but that's what I want to play with, Dan. I think you're stuck here in the now, just like you were back in our famous fight. You wanted Hemsworth at the bus station. Now I'm talking about history and playing with that.
I don't know about a bus station, but it's I don't know.
Is the fight about who would do stuff with at a bus station now?
I have no idea. Okay. It's all fun.
If I can take it to theirs, Joe, I win.
Mine is still Tim Meadows, if it is.
Not a bad choice.
But I think about, particularly with Pitt, it's like Ken and Barbie are now in completely different places. If Ken is older and Barbie's younger, then they're in completely different. I just think both of these choices, you have to sort of do hula hoops and backward turns as to the dynamic between those two, and you have to cast both of them in these weird different things. Whereas with Robbie and Hemsworth, I think it sells itself. It's such a great dynamic between those two. You don't have to do any of those narrative backflips like, well, if we address it this way, if we talk about it this way, well, he's older, so we're going to talk about this, or Tim Meadows is going to have to play against type, or it's going to be, it's like, I just think Hemsworth and Robbie.
How does your movie end, Dan? How does your movie end? What's the final thing here? Movie.
How does it end?
Can I ask a question like that? How does it? Because here's what I'm saying.
Okay.
My movie ends with Barbie walking off into the sunset in a new direction by herself with the old guy out. Ken, get him on out of there. Record producer Ken, Corvette Ken, Tropical Ken, doesn't matter. It's something new, and then we have a new life and a new adventure for Barbie. I want change. You want to play with the toy shelves of the 80s.
No, I want change as well. I think my movie would end with Barbie. Barbie, it's going to be called. This is the name of the movie. Barbie Triumphant. Barbie finally gets away from this preconceived notion. She is still with this idiot, but she doesn't resent him anymore because he's not. It's not this kind of this clash between them anymore. People recognize who she is, and she can appreciate Ken for the sort of clueless goofball that he is and has always been.
All right, let's shift gears and move to final thoughts. Joe Starr.
I think the proof of this pudding is going to be the big visual joke of this movie, and that is the moment where Ken drops trowel and is just a smooth parts doll with no crotch. And it's a matter of which of these three men can pull that joke off the best. And I think it's Tim Meadows with a knowing sigh as he is reminded once again that he has no genitals to speak of because his body is plastic. That's my entire final thought, Hal.
All right, no genitals to speak of. Dan.
Well, if we're going by that metric, I would recommend you to the
Hashtag no genitals to speak of.
If that's the
Get it
metric we're
trending.
going by, then I would point you to the direction of the Ed Helms Vacation remake, wherein Chris Hemsworth did some of the best crotch-based humor that I have seen in several years. So if we're going by who can pull off the crotch-based humor more successfully, it's Chris Hemsworth by a mile. But taking crotches out of the picture, again, I think it's about what's going to make the best movie. And I think that the Brad Pitt take is certainly a take, but I don't know if it's the right take. I don't know if it's the right take for this movie. The older guy, I just feel like you want something that's a little more dynamic, that's a little more mainstream, and honestly just a little more kind of the classic comedy duo, the classic comedy team up. And I see Robbie Hemsworth as your best chance at that. I think you would sell a lot of tickets to that pairing.
A lot of tickets for that one. Ken.
Well, look, I don't know about smooth genitals. I don't know about a comedy team.
Yeah,
Should Barbie
do.
just be comedy? Look, even Aqua's Barbie girl, as great as that was a commentary on what was going on there. We want some meat to this Barbie stew, and I'm giving you a big hunk of meat with Brad Pitt, an all-time classic, and we're going to have fun with it. We're going to play around with it, and he's good at comedy. Burn After Reading's a great example. His death scene, that look right before he dies, that's the best, and that's the kind of stuff you're going to get in my Barbie with Brad Pitt.
Time. There you have it. Lon Harris, drop some facts on us.
I'll drop facts only.
Facts only.
Brad Pitt's 55, Tim Meadows is 57, Margot Robbie's 28. So there's all your ages. You can decide if that age difference is too much for you or not. Ken was introduced only 2 years after Barbie. I thought that was really interesting. So Ken's point about he's been behind her this whole time. Ken has had 40 different careers over the years. I could not find record producer, but in 1993, Earring Magic Ken was introduced.
Same
and I
thing.
feel like, you're right, you're most of the way there.
That's the Ken I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
and lastly, 1992, the Gin Blossoms released their classic album, New Miserable Experience. Nailed it, got the title exactly right. It's the one that has the song on it that we were
Awesome. Hey, Lon, please, why don't you favor us with your thoughts on this round?
This one had a pretty clear-cut winner, I thought. With much love and respect to Julia, I felt like, and despite how great an argument Joe made, I felt like he was really, really kind of behind the gun the whole time with Tim Meadows. I'm not sure if we quite got there, despite I thought the smooth crotch pitch at the end was great, but then Dan had a great response for why Hemsworth would actually...
Really did.
So I feel like, no blows sort of exchanged hands there. Ken, I thought, made a pretty solid case for Brad Pitt, but yeah, he was sort of unable to come up with real timely, like all the references were sort of 90s. It was a little old.
Welcome to my brand.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of not in the moment, the cultural moment for Brad Pitt to play Ken, so I'm going with Dan and Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going with Dan as well. That the one line that like locked it in for me when you said, even though it was factually incorrect because Barbie dolls aren't shrink wrapped, they're in a box instead of.
Well, that's true.
But when you said you could see them on a shelf next to each other, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's the answer right there. Among other things, Dan takes the point. Danielle, where's the internet's head at?
All right, so the internet right now we've got at 72% Chris Hemsworth, and then Tim and Brad are tied at 13%.
Yeah, just a couple old guys hanging out drinking beers.
Alternates, a lot of Channing Tatums and a lot of Henry Cavills. Y'all really want them on there.
Cavill's got the chin.
He's got that chin. This was one I thought was really interesting. Very cheesy boy on Twitter says, I don't know about you, but I would love to see an out-of-the-box, goofy take on the infamous Ken. Haha, pun. Someone who is relatable, charming, and can deal with some jokes. Bill Hader can do it, and it would stick in people's minds more than a Hemsworth type. That was interesting.
I like Cavill too. I feel like we're due a Cavill's a Leslie Nielsen kind of dummy.
He can play it straight.
I think he did.
Yeah, a little bit of
straight.
taking a little piss out of himself with that. But there you have it. It is 1 for Dan, 1 for Joe. Ken looking to get on the board as we move to question number 3. Woo! Oh, this is a fun one. Okay, so apparently a sequel to Space Jam called Skate Jam, starring Tony Hawk, almost happened in the early aughts.
I want a sweatshirt with that on it so bad.
Whoa, that is sick. So, pitch a follow-up. We ask you to pitch a follow-up to Space Jam featuring a present-day athlete or performer that's not about hoops, no basketball. What's it called? And what's the basic storyline? Ooh, I'm excited to dig into this one. We're going to start, question number 3, start with player number 3, Dan Murrell.
This is really hard. Like, I thought about this for a long time. I thought about the sports angles. I thought about, like, all the different ways you can go. I mean, you got the Looney Tunes. They're always there. And it's, like, it's almost infinite. So I went with the one, and maybe it's because I have the last awards show that I watched. But I was like, what personality really in Hollywood do I want to see interact with Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny, more than anyone else? And the answer for me was Jeff Bridges. I love Jeff Bridges. I love his energy. I love he has this wonderful childlike way of looking at the world. And so I thought, and even I would like to explore the possibilities. This would be difficult, but we live in wonderful technological times. If you could even experiment with, at least for the first take, through the technology that they have, real-time renderings, even just capturing his real-time reactions to interacting with the Looney Tunes for the first time, just the joy that would bring. And so I've chosen Jeff Bridges, interacting with the world of the Looney Tunes, and the name of my reboot is Space Man.
Spaceman.
Spaceman.
We're gonna be little runners.
Nice.
Bunch of shirt tabs.
Good cadence on that delivery, sir. Academy Award winner Jeff Bridges. Ken Napzok.
Jeff Bridges' childlike innocence is provided by Harrison Ford's pot. I think we all know that if you watch the Golden Globes. All right, first of all, I see sometimes in YouTube comments that, there's an agenda around these parts, and it is. You know what it is? It's get Space Jam into every damn movie fights. How many times I got to answer a question about
This
Space
is my
Jam
third or fourth Space
on this
Jam
show?
question, yeah.
It's all on Harris's fault. We know this.
True story.
All right,
Big Space Jam fan.
let's go.
From way back.
Didn't I pitch like a Wharf Space Jam or something?
was.
one
Oh,
time?
I mean, because they
Jam.
keep coming out with news. There's Space Jam news every day.
Tony Hawk, pro skater, Bucky Lasik was my choice. Here we go. Madison Square Garden, August of 1999. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. That's right. You smell what he's cooking. He's going up against Mick Foley in a main event, except for something happens. Oh, there is some chaos in the WWE locker room, back then WWF, and the Monstars have come down and taken over the form of, you got it, that's right, are you ready? DX! Trips, Triple H, HBK, Six-Pac, and the New Age Outlaws. No, that's right. It's a new main event. The Rock needs to get his friends. Mick Foley, he finds him hidden, bound in some kind of storage closet where probably The Miz was changing in 2006. And Mick Foley's friend Sacco, their friend Porky Pig. That's right. I brought in WWE locker room politics. And finally, because we need him, Bill effing Murray. He's going to be the fifth man in this new main event. That's right, it's The Rock leading Slam Jam.
All right, Slam Jam with The Rock. That picture of The Rock was really. I couldn't tell if that was animated. You see that picture? Was that a drawing
It's
or
a
an
dynamic
actual photo?
The trick of any photo of The Rock is that it's actually The Rock, and it's like a Hogwarts portrait in a way, where like he's actively there looking back at us
the
right
eyebrow
now.
moves.
Yeah,
Amazing.
exactly.
Joe Starr, what do you got?
Well, Hal, here's the challenge of a modern-day Space Jam movie is that the biggest sports in the world aren't sports anymore. It's games. So I'm going with Twitch Jam. We're going to the world of Fortnite because that's what the kids really love. Here's the pitch. Athletic performer Joe Manganiello. That's his name. That's what I call him.
It's accurate.
Joe Manganiello. He takes a break from his touring male dancer career to be recruited by the Looney Tunes because they need to defeat the Monstars in Fortnite. But then we take it further down a step where all of them as a group get sucked into the world of Fortnite So now you got the Looney Tunes and the Monstars Looney tuning it up on this weird battlefield, only for a third act last bit of assistance from a player that ends up joining them, who we find out is Bill Murray playing Fortnite from his couch.
Yeah,
Twitch
Jam. Twitch Jam.
Twitch Jam. All right, fight it out, dude.
Look, I'm taking my kid to see Twitch Jam. Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds great. There's Porky Pig. He just got shotgunned in the face because it's Fortnite. And then you got Daffy Duck. He's being axed to death by someone getting
That's
resources.
basic Looney Tune shit, Ken. They got shot in the face all the time.
A lot of anvils.
Hang on, let me put my beak back on my head. Like that. Looney Tunes is inherently violent.
That's a good point, but I'll tell you what. But I'll tell you what, Joe Starr. I'll tell you what. You're giving me something, Dan. I love Jeff Bridges. Holy crap, he's an icon. Where's your villain? What's he doing? Who's he fighting? With the monsters come down, taking over with the Coen brothers? Like, what's going on?
We've done this Monstars fighting and playing basketball. That was the first movie. This is an exploration of the world. You're out in space. You're enjoying the wonder of it all. Why does everyone always have to be fighting each other?
So it's kind of like just a slice of life where
it's. I mean, obviously it's not going to be completely unstructured. I think that you leave a little room for discovery and catch some genuine reactions. I think it's a fun kind of experiment that way. But you got a great talent like Jeff Bridges. My thing with the Twitch thing is like it sounds like Joe.
It sounds like I'd rather watch Twitch.
He's a narc. I don't think that the kids who would be the audience for this, who are playing Twitch and playing Fortnite, would be like, you know what the kids who play Fortnite love? 70-year-old cartoon characters and Joe Manganiello and Bill Murray.
Look,
it seems like they're narcs.
What the kids love is not the point. That is why popular IPs have not changed for the last 406 years, because the things that matter to our parents and to us are the only things that will ever get to matter, period.
That's why they greenlit the John Adams series on HBO. This is a good IP. Let's keep it going.
John Adams and Avengers reboots until the sun explodes.
Yeah.
I picked Joe Manganiello, largely because of his very fun, self-aware combination of two things: his ridiculous performance in Magic Mike 2, which is wonderful, and then also his very fun, self-aware performance in Pee-wee, in the Pee-wee movie that Netflix did. He's just very fun and charming in that movie. Plus, he's also a gamer, so that sort of ties us in to the world a little bit. I think Fortnite's inherently just over-the-top violence is a great world to explore with Looney Tunes and a very well-built male stripper.
Joe Manganiello is my stripper name, so I'll tell you what, it works for me on some levels. But again, Dan, you were pitching that sequence from Big Lebowski with Kenny Rogers singing. You're just pitching a movie about that. I want to see that, but it ain't this movie. It ain't the sequel.
I do want to see that. I've watched that 500 times in my life.
You gotta give.
You're telling me that if during that sequence in the Big Lebowski, if he's tripping and he's flying around on a magic carpet, and then the camera zooms out and Bugs Bunny is sitting there chomping on a carrot and saying, "What's up, Doc?" You're telling me that doesn't fit there?
That's
of course
your
that
movie?
fits there.
That's your movie?
That's the tone
it's
of
like
it.
the Magical Mystery Tour.
Yes.
We're like, all right,
Yes.
Paul, enjoy your weed. Good
Yes.
job releasing on Boxing Day in black and white. One of the biggest mistakes in history. But, all right, so...
This would be a stoner hit for generations, including Jeff Bridges. He can do what he's always wanted to do. Just show up, just like, oh man, hey,
I'd rather just see the sequel to the Big Lebowski, with that being what we got there.
So is your version are the It's not set in current day wrestling.
No, I'm going with old school. I'm taking it retro.
So you're not only are you asking an audience to relate to WWE politics, your locker room politics.
That was just a
you're
joke
asking
to make
them to
Billy
jump
laugh.
on board with 20-year-old WWE politics.
The thing about wrestling, going back to 1903, Gotch, Hackenschmidt, the politics stay the same. Good versus evil.
Maybe
that's your story.
Maybe if they were current day wrestling superstars, I could buy into it, but other
Cena,
than The Rock, but I don't know who's going to show up to a Mick Foley movie other than you know.
Tony Schiavone said that once, and it changed wrestling history. So all right,
I don't know.
That's going to put butts in the seats. Absolutely. The Rock, he'll probably be at WrestleMania. Triple H, he'll probably win at WrestleMania. Actually, he likes to lose. HBK, he'll get some hair plugs and be at WrestleMania. These are current day stars.
I hate to say
which
it,
is
but
not a great comment.
Like we said about IP.
They're not like John Cena though. They're not like, you got The Rock. yes, but I think if you're choosing it to do 20 years ago, there are some people who know these people.
I love John Cena. I love
think-
John Cena, but The Rock is
I think
still better than
late
John Cena.
Attitude Era
talking better.
WWE will do so much to expose the more problematic issues of the Looney Tunes, and everyone will just sort of leave that movie with very bad taste in their mouth. Any movie that makes what's the sexual harassing skunk's name?
Pepe Le Pew.
Any movie that makes Pepe Le Pew look like a pretty good guy, it might not be the best movie. And I think
so the guy who's
your late
hacking
90s
Porky
pro
Pig in the
wrestling
face.
movie would do that.
This
think
is
if you-
about good defeating that. This is about looking at the end of the movie. HBK will start praying. I go, I made
But you're making. I think you had the beginnings of a good idea, but you're making a movie. It was very easy to put John Cena in it, and you're explicitly traveling back in time so that John Cena cannot be in it. I
Let
think
me
that's
ask
a
you this
critical
question.
mistake.
Very complicated, Ken.
Bumblebee.
Yes.
Best received, best critically reviewed Transformers movie.
That's correct.
It disappeared at the box office. John Cena is
Not
not the
true.
draw. He's very funny in Amy Schumer's movie. I love Cena. Hair or no. The Rock is still box office gold. He can go lay a fart turd on the beach with Baywatch, and he's going to come back with
John
Jumanji.
Cena was the face of Blockers, which is a comedy that did extremely well. He is on the rise as far as movie stars go. He's not at the peak of his career at the box office. He is just at the ascent phase of his career at the box office.
Also, I'm
Ken,
ashamed that you're not interested in putting over young guys, Ken. Put over the boys.
Why? Because I'll tell you why. You want to talk about young guy? NXT is the worst thing in wrestling. It ruins wrestling because no one knows how to get over. No one knows how to do it. Oh God, don't get me started on
All
wrestling.
right,
I wanna
let's
see
go
Becky
final
Lynch fight
thoughts.
a
Final
monster.
thoughts. Dan
Final
Murrell.
thoughts. Okay.
Final thoughts.
At the end of the day, what do I want? What do I want from the Space Jam movie? I want something that has fun with the Looney Tunes universe, and having the portal of this be Jeff Bridges and enter. Like, I love that you made the pitch for me. That Big Lebowski dream sequence is so amazing. It's not exclusionary. I think you can show that sequence. It's not Jeff Bridges, that old man. If you have that tone of just like people are going to show up for this weird ass trippy movie with this cult figure, this beloved figure, Jeff Bridges has become a cult figure in addition to being a mainstream actor. I think that's a great concept. I think the wrestling with the Space Jam and everything, if it were set currently, maybe that would be a sell, but I think you're relying on name recognition from stars from 20 years ago. Other than The Rock, I don't know other than the niche audience that's still there that knows all of these deep cuts from 20 years ago, I don't know how many characters are going to be there. And as far as Twitch and Fortnite and everything, this doesn't seem like the kind of thing that's going to tap into what that audience wants. I don't think they want a corporate movie with the Looney Tunes characters where I'm sure they'll kind of be making fun of the game. For what I know, those games are taken extraordinarily seriously, and I think if a movie adaptation was announced that it was going to be literally a cartoon with cartoon characters romping around, I don't think it would be received well. I think that mine is a really fun movie, and that it would appeal to a lot of people, and it would just be a good time.
Thank you, Dan. Back around to Ken.
Love Jeff Bridges. There's no movie here. It's art house fluff. I'm on Twitch. Follow me, Ken Napzok. I play Fortnite. You're probably going to want to do that instead of going to see this movie because there's no plot here either. Just baseless violence, and that's what we have Twitch for, anyways. And Fortnite, my movie, you got 3 acts, good versus evil, and this movie ends with The Rock going, Mick, give me Socko! And Socko comes out, and he goes down Triple H's mouth, and the movie ends. The monsters emerge. They have to take off and go back to their planet. Are they aliens? I don't know. But that's how my movie ends. I've got a movie, and that's what the question is.
I've got a movie, and that's what the question is.
He's got a movie. Joe.
I have fulfilled the prompt. Good day, sir. So with space, man, again, I don't think we've got to. If this was more of a situation, remember in Strange Days when like you'd get the chip and you could see into someone's mind?
Sure, talk about old references.
If Jeff Bridges just got real stoned and I could Strange Days into his mind and watch him just really high and interacting with Daffy Duck, like that's a cool deal for me. But it's not a movie or a thing that I would like actively go see. Of all the wrestling, man, you put the New Age Outlaws on a pedestal. Of all the opportunities you could crack into,
I put them on their backs, putting over our heroes.
It just didn't pique my interest the way like a John Cena, Becky Lynch teaming with Bugs and Honey. Was her name Honey? The Ladybugs. Nope, it was
Lola?
Lola, thank you.
Lola Bunny.
Honey Bunny's from something else.
It's like Lola, sir.
Lola.
I'm surprised sometimes.
You
if I'm
moron.
being honest.
They use Honey Bunny in Pulp Fiction.
Thank you. What I like about my movie, it'd be weird if I was like, here are the things I don't like about it. Here's what I like about it. Gamers get all their Fortnite references in. They get to sort of do all the bingo card of the stuff that they like. Non-gamers get to enjoy, just like, like a good episode of Looney Tunes or like a good episode of Animaniacs. There's stuff there for the kids and the fans, and then there's also stuff that's going to be a little bit above their head, stuff that sort of points at these games and kind of goes, what's going on? And parents of gamers can really kind of glom onto that stuff. Again, I think Joe Manganiello, while not like the crazy most obvious choice to lead a movie like this, I think he does this kind of role really, really well. He knocked that Pee-wee movie out of the park. He's just sort of delightfully self-aware in the Magic Mike movies. And then finally, again, the third act, Bill Murray joining in, playing from his couch. Neither of your movies offer an opportunity to actually see what Bill Murray's living room looks like, because he's not going to leave his apartment to shoot this role. He's actually going to just get videoed in on a webcam playing this, and you've come for this movie already, and then it just gives you an extra little free box of candy that is a glimpse into the life of Bill Murray, and that's why I would go Twitch Jam.
Time. All right, there it is. Twitch Jam. Wow. 3 very different takes on the Space Jam sequel. Lon, where are the facts at?
Only one real fact to check. Everybody say it with me now. Joe Manganiello. Joe Manganiello.
They were doing it a hyphenated Joe Manganiello.
They were doing Joe Manganiello. Not how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a clean round.
But it will be a great running joke in Twitch Jam.
Yes.
Joe Manganiello.
Manganiello.
Oh boy, this is a toughie. Dan, I thought you had the best title, but I just didn't think there was enough there with the story. And part of the question was, what's the basic storyline? And you like you yourself said, it's not going to be completely unstructured. That said to me, it's going to be largely unstructured.
It's going to be a bit unstructured. That's part of the magic of it. That's part of my initial pitch, Hal.
Yeah, man.
Shouldn't come as a surprise.
I loved it. I love Space Man, but couldn't quite get on board with that. Came down to Joe and Ken for me, and I'm still deciding in this very moment, you guys. And you know what? I'm banking on The Rock. I'm going with Ken. I'm going with Ken.
I always forget too. I'm like, yes, and there's more judges.
Yep. Lon.
I agree. I think I also was gonna go with Ken. I thought I love the Jeff Bridges concept, but yeah, I just feel like I don't really have a clear idea of what that movie is, like what's driving the movie forward, other than Jeff Bridges being baffled at seeing Looney Tunes. And I feel like, Joe, if you had connected Why Is It Joe Manganiello and Fortnite together, I would have been in there. But it seemed like two very disparate elements to me. I couldn't figure out what this movie would be. So yeah, I thought the movie that seemed like this is the clearest, like I get what this would be, and it would be a Space Jam spinoff, was Ken's pitch.
All right, Ken with Space Slam. That means we have a 3-way tie. 3 winners. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
Whoa.
Wait a minute.
I got the tiebreaker right here. So let's do it. The tiebreaker.
What did the internet say about my...
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
I forgot how things worked. Danielle, apologies.
I'm being rude.
No, you're not.
Clean sweep. Ken with 51%, Joe with 26%, Dan with 21%. Other answers that they liked, I got a lot of Tom Brady, I got a lot of Bo Jackson, I got a great one from Sarah Wendling on Twitter. RuPaul does Drag Race with the Looney Tunes. Bug is all about drag. This answer brought to you by my current binging of Drag Race on Netflix. And
RuPaul's Drag Space.
Yes. And also, Dan, I do have one correction for you. Wrestling backstage politics is sometimes people's most of their career.
I will say that of the 3, I would go watch Dance. It sounds amazing.
I might watch that one.
It sounds like what Night of Cups was supposed to be.
Yeah. least pretentious version of Knight of Cups you could possibly imagine.
Jeff Bridges walking around being like, "You're animated, man."
Whoa, man.
Sam Elliott drops in. It's a good one.
The dude in space.
That
All
Sam
right.
Elliott Yosemite Sam meetup alone. Would
Hey,
be
bugs.
Okay, so we can only have 2 of you move on to the speed round, so we are going to our tie break. It works thusly. I will ask the question, call out your answer, and then we will hear you elaborate in the order that you answered, and then you'll have 10-second rebuttals, very much like a speed round. And then Danielle, Lon, and myself will pick who does not move on. We'll pick who does not move on. Here is the question. What Avenger, not the actor, but the character, would make the best Oscar host?
Iron Man.
I'm gonna go with running through all the Avengers in my head. I'm gonna go with Peter Parker / Spider-Man.
Peter Parker.
It's a good pick. Good pick.
Joe.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. Okay, there you go. You have Iron Man, Peter Parker, and Doctor Strange. We'll go. The order will go Ken, Dan, Joe. Ken, 20 seconds begin whenever you speak.
The Oscars is about patting yourself on the back. They don't like to take anything too seriously. They like to be pumped up. That's the audience. You have Iron Man, whether it's he takes a mask off, hey, you know me, I'm Tony Stark, and I'm one of you. I'm rich, I'm vain, I'm vapid. I might have some stuff going on, and you can respect my talent, but I've got jokes. I'm one of you, and you're not going to be threatened. Let's celebrate ourselves.
Time. Dan, Peter Parker.
Spider-Man is the new hero on the block. The kids love him. Oscar has an old crowd. You want the young demo. You got a young, hip host. He's funny. He's got quips. He can think on his feet, which you have to do at the Oscars a lot of time as a host. Plus, you're going to get a show. He's dynamic. He can do aerial stuff. He can do gymnastics. He can do dancing. He can really do whatever you want as an Oscar host, and that's what you want. A young...
The problem with Peter is that he's got that old Parker luck, so inevitably something's going to go very wrong at the Oscars just because he's Peter Parker, and so something's going to go wrong. I think Doctor Strange is just as douchey and fun as Tony Stark, and he's the whole spectacle. He's your whole special effects budget. He's your whole live show right there with the snap of a finger. They save so much money on the set and the razzle-dazzle.
Okay, 10-second rebuttals. Ken.
Dan just gave me the perfect Nick Jr. Nick Awards host. The show's going to run long. He's going to do his magic tricks, everything. I've got someone with a drink and a sly smile, and the show is moving.
We want the kids to tune into this show. Spider-Man is the new kid on the block. He's the hot new act, and I don't need another Hollywood person selling me weird mysticism. I have enough of that already. I need somebody else. Thank you very much.
Damn.
Dan, maybe what this town needs is the biggest, best stress test of them all. And the last time Tony was drunk in front of a crowd, he peed his armor. That's bad for business. Again, Doctor Strange is just going to give you a great show, and if the audience...
Ooh, all right. Let's go to Danielle Radford. What do you think?
Holy crap. This was an amazing round.
You guys did great.
I love all of you so much. If only because I wish that I feel like, and I loved your pick, and I felt like Iron Man should have been the one that won, but I feel like you hammered too much in on I'm rich and vain and vapid, and less on like Tony's the one who performs more in front of crowds and things like that. And then especially with Joe knocked you out with that thing about peeing on stage. That did happen. He did totally do that.
Pull a Star is Born up there.
I was just about to make that, and I was like, no spoilers. But yeah, so unfortunately for me, it's got to be Ken. I'm so sorry.
Lon?
I went a little bit of a different way. I sort of thought, I thought Doctor Strange, an interesting pick, but I really thought Joe made a great case for why this would be, like, if you were the producer, he would be the easiest pick because he can sort of take care of a lot of the spectacle himself. But I'm not quite sure I was totally sold that he would be the best overall host. So I'm saying Joe.
You know what? I got to agree with Lon here because Dan sold me with like Peter Parker, the dancing. It brought to mind like the opening sequences they have, and like this is just like a wry guy with a drink just leading the way. Doctor Strange, I like some of the spectacle, but I feel like we didn't get a lot more than that. Joe, you fought valiantly today, good sir.
Thank you, guys.
Yes,
Manny Moto of movie fights.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
I do what I can.
70s baseball.
Yes,
now.
sir. Dan and Ken moving on to the speed round. It works the same. I'll ask the question, call out your answers. You'll get 20 seconds in the order that you answered, and then 10-second rebuttals. Let's do this. And the score, that point did not count for anything, so it's 1-1 going into the speed round. Question 1. What movie is more deserving of award season attention, Bohemian Rhapsody or Green Book?
Green Book.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay, we got Green Book from Dan first. Dan, 20 seconds begin whenever you speak.
I think the Green Book has a lot of elements that could be considered for the awards. I think it's a funny script. I think particularly the performances of Viggo Mortensen and especially Mahershala Ali and Linda Cardellini, who I think is underrated in that film, could be considered in a lot of categories. Bohemian Rhapsody is a good movie. It's a mediocre movie with one great performance in the middle. I think it's hanging its head on one nail, whereas Green Book has a lot of different things.
Ken.
We've seen Green Book before. We're going to see it again. We've got one of the greatest bands of all time. You've got their story. Is it a perfect story? No, absolutely. But one of the most iconic moments in music. A band at the top of their powers. We get to see it. We get to feel it. We get to live it. That's going to stay with us a lot longer than a movie we're going to see again. I'm stopped. I'm done.
10-second rebut.
At the end of the day, I can see, feel, and live that Live Aid moment on YouTube or anywhere else. It's a great recreation, but it doesn't match up to the original, whereas Green Book does give me, as a viewer, it gave me a better understanding of these characters and informed me about some people that I didn't know about.
That's all great stuff there, Dan, but again, I'm going to say, I've been down this road before. I'd rather see Dan Aykroyd do it. All right, let's do it. I've got, we've got, music is a universal language here, and this movie did something.
All right. So the question was award season attention, and I feel like Dan just had more of a laundry list of bullet points that you could potentially give a trophy to. So I'm going Dan. Lon, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I thought Dan made a pretty strong, convincing case for Green Book Awards, actually. And so, yeah, I just think he just brought a lot more to the table.
All right, Dan is up 2-1. Going into question 2 of the speed round. Here it is. We found out this week that the Men in Black / 21 Jump Street crossover is definitely not gonna happen. So, if not Men in Black, what other franchise should cross over with 21 Jump Street?
Jesus.
The Jumpverse.
Joining the
Jumpverse,
Jumpers.
yeah. Bad Boys.
Ooh. We got Bad Boys.
That's really good. We're going to go Fast and the Furious.
For some reason, I just heard you saying Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Bad Boys and we have Fast and the Furious. We heard Dan first. 20 seconds begin whenever you speak.
I think the thing that is in danger of growing stale in both of these franchises is that you have two great pairs. You have Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum. You have Will Smith, Martin Lawrence. But we've already seen 2 movies with both of those things. What can you do? You can mix it up. You can mix up those dynamics. Those are 4 great actors. They've already shown that they are really good comedically. You mix that combination up, I think you're going to be great. The Miami Beach thing makes sense. The over-the-topness of Bad Boys.
Boom. You could take Channing Tatum, you could take Jonah Hill, you can put in this wonderful, crazy world that everyone already loves. It's a proven box office winner. Bad Boys, it's in the past. They're hoping the reboot works. We know Fast and the Furious works. You're going to have something that's a little bit different for both franchises, and it's going to combine into one superpower movie. I'm telling you, this is going to win box office all around the world. Hit the bell.
If we were in the Too Fast, Too Furious days, or even the Fast 5 days, I might agree with you. The last Fast and Furious movie, she was literally pointing a gun at a baby. That is not where the Jump Street franchise is right now. Bad Boys, you can have so much more fun. Fast and Furious is getting too serious. They're going way too down the serious road. I want to go somewhere where those guys can have fun, and the combination of those 4, I think, would be a really great, fun movie.
You're right, man. This franchise, Fast and Furious, does take itself too seriously. So let's put Jonah Hill in a fast car and making some comics, making some jokes, sit next to Jason Statham. Oh, man, I'm on board already.
All right. Danielle Radford.
Geez, those are both great choices. Both of these are really great, but I have to say, I really was sold with Ken had that very specific scene. Put Jonah Hill next to Jason Statham in a fast car, and I was able to see that and immediately know what this movie was going to be, and so I gotta go with Ken.
I agree 100%. That was like, oh, the peanut butter and chocolate came together right there. I give it to Ken as well. We are all tied up at 2-2. All right, question number 3.
Would have gone Matrix.
Ooh.
I said they would be with people in my movie too.
But did you say they'd be in a thing?
No. I should have said the 4 of them in a car together.
There's the key. You gotta put them in a thing. Okay. Question number 3. A sing-along print of Bohemian Rhapsody will be coming to movie theaters across the USA. What movie would be most fun to sing along to in a theater with a crowd?
South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
You said South Park. You say Spice World. Okay.
Wow, and right away. Didn't have to think about it.
Not even a little, just like immediate.
You Ken finished saying his answer first, so I think Ken goes first.
Just a shorter title.
Sure. Okay.
It's great.
That's how it works.
I mean, yeah.
You make the
It's
rules.
great.
Ken, 20 seconds begin when you speak. Dan, you're on deck.
Have you ever been at a wedding or a high school reunion when a Spice Girls song starts playing? Have you seen that dance floor? Have you seen the fun, the jubilation? Have you seen all the nostalgia pouring out? Have you seen a bunch of Canadians be offended by South Park songs? Yeah, I've seen that too, and they're not easily offended, all right? Their prime minister wears Chewbacca socks. I'm telling you, you've got Spice World Week.
I have been to all those things, and it's the worst. Have you been in a room full of people screaming along to a Spice Girls song? No. Have you been in a theater singing Uncle Fucka at the same time? I haven't, and I sure as hell want to be. Those are great songs. I want to see people singing along to those songs because they're so great, because they're so inappropriate. I don't want to go back to 1997, Ken. I don't want to go back to a world where I hear Spice Girls scream at me.
Look, South Park, I don't know when the movie came out, but that is 90s all the way. We've moved past that, but we haven't moved past the fun of, if you want to be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Come on, you know this is 4 quadrants. Give Dan an extra second.
It's 2 quadrants, Ken. It's you and the girls I went to high school with. Those are the 2 quadrants for that movie. South Park is a hilarious thing. That movie is recognized as being brilliant now more than it was when it came out, and those songs are great.
All right. Yeah, I go Dan. You got me. Uncle Fucka that is my jam. Lon.
It was close. It was close actually until the end when Ken just started sort of singing instead of making an argument. First round I was really divided. Second round I think went to Dan.
All right, Dan. You move ahead 3-2. This is game point for Mr. Murrell. Ken, you need this to tie it up. Better much hyped 2018 horror movie, Halloween or Bird Box?
Bird Box.
Halloween.
Okay. Ken, you spoke first. I heard you finish your answer first. 20 seconds begin when you speak now.
All right, let me tell you something. This is what everyone in the world wants to figure out. What the hell is Bird Box? Halloween? Oh, I get it. It's like this movie I saw 30 years ago. Why is Sandra Bullock running around with her eyes covered? Why is her face in every meme in the world? I want to see it. And the Netflix numbers, though they're always shady, we finally saw this movie caught the eye of all the people, ironically.
It's not about hype, it's about result. And the hype on Bird Box was high, but what most people said was like, did you see Bird Box? Yeah, I didn't know what the big deal was. That's what a lot of people said about it. Halloween delivered the sequel that Halloween fans have been waiting for 40 years. Jamie Lee Curtis came back to that role and absolutely crushed it. It revived Michael Myers after he was dead, after getting kicked out of a window by Busta Rhymes. It did what people didn't think was possible.
Time. Rebut.
Oh, look, let's go. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She once yelled at me in an elevator, and I deserved every second of it. But that movie, I didn't see a lot of people talking about it. I still see people on the internet talking about Bird Box, love it or hate it. Sometimes all the press is the press you need.
You said it, love it or hate it. A lot of people didn't like that movie, and it's what is the better movie of 2018. And Halloween was really well received by audiences. It did huge numbers at the box office, and it brought that franchise back to life.
All right. Let's go with Danielle.
Oh, geez. Okay. Would you mind restating the question for me just so I can be clear?
Yes, ma'am. Better much hyped 2018 horror movie, Halloween or Bird Box?
Okay. Considering that this is about hype. While Dan had a really good comment about it's not about hype, it's about the result, and Bird Box wasn't very good, I just thought Ken's point about the memeing of it and how many people did watch it, which is true. Bird Box was very hyped, so I got to go with that.
Thank you, Danielle. I will say I took the question a little bit differently. I had the question, which of these much hyped movies was better? And I thought Dan made the case towards that, although Ken definitely acknowledged the hype. I'm going with Dan on this. Lon, it comes down to you on this question.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hal. I think that Ken got a little too wrapped up in describing how Bird Box sort of took over the internet and didn't talk enough about was it a good movie or not, was it worth the hype? So I feel like Dan did a better job of sort of speaking to the question.
And Dan, you take the day. Dan Murrell Dan won a movie fight. What? Dan, nicely done, my good man. Shout some stuff out.
I'm excited to play for the title in a couple weeks, I think. Right, Billy? A couple weeks, something like that, against Greg Alba. That's going to be a great fight.
Ooh, what a throwdown.
Hell of a fight. This was a hell of a fight. I love fighting. I love doing these things. We have fun. They're fun. We're all friends. This is fun. We had a good time. I had a good time today.
Yeah,
friendship is what I'm shouting out today.
Yeah, this was a blast. Heck yeah, I love that. Ken Napzok, you were funny and educational.
Hey, if you guys want to come over to my place and watch Spice World, I have it on VHS and DVD. True story. You can follow me at Ken Napzok. As the thing on the bottom is said. Yes, and I've got Motivations with Ken on YouTube and podcast form. It's the worst motivations you'll ever get, and a lot of other things coming. Big announcement soon. Star Wars related. I can't wait to share it. So can I come back and maybe talk about it? Yes, thanks.
Are you Snoke?
Yeah. Quick question. Why did Jamie Lee Curtis yell at you in an elevator?
I'll tell you the quick story. We were at Comic-Con. We get in the elevator. She had her high heels off, and we were both going upstairs. And I looked down. She goes, "I know." And I go, "I know. I got beauty. They say beauty isn't pain." And she looks at me. And she goes, "Fuck you." And I go, "Oh." I go, "What?" She goes, "No, you're fine. I'm kidding. You're great, but fuck you." And but she was great. She was charming and wonderful.
I would love for Jamie Lee Curtis telling me to F off. That's like something you never forget. Joe Starr, awesome. Always a pleasure. Thank you again for stepping up and
this was a fun one. I think it would have been probably a better one if we had Miss Julia Prescott, who's been a fresh splash of fun weird on this show.
Oh, yeah.
But it's always great to be able to step in, play with this guy, see you two over there. No, I had a good time.
Thank you, brother. Always great to have you, Joe Starr. Lon Harris, what's going on with you?
Oh, not too much. Follow me on Twitter at LONS. And remember, Joe Manganello, everybody. One name of the show today. It's pronounced Manganello.
Thank you for setting the record straight. Danielle Radford, thank you for being just the ultimate ray of sunshine. What do you got?
As per usual, you can follow me on Twitter, Danielle Radford. I am on Instagram at Danielle_Radford, still trying to get free dresses since everyone's like, "Oh, that's your favorite dress." And I'm like, well, then buy me a new one, or at least follow me so that then other people can give them to me. Also, I do have a Patreon where we do talk a lot of wrestling, and we also talk movies, because I was being slightly hyperbolic when talking to Dan earlier. Talking about wrestling histories doesn't pay as much as I thought it would. So it turns out I have to mix it up a little bit.
Right on. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
I want to thank you guys for watching. I'm at Hal Rudnick on the gram and on the Twitter. And hashtag Owl Nation, hashtag Go Hooligans, hashtag Percival the Owl, and hoot hoot. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time on Movie Fights. Oh, thank you, Billy Biz, for doing the double duty. You the man. Bye-bye.